I came from a wonderful family, but life decisions just took me down the path, and I had that support system, and they always were my backbone. They were always willing to give me a helping hand, but I didn't have that shelter, though. Being here, I had shelter now. Even though I had a choice to be back out on the streets, I had to make a conscious choice to stay in the shelter and to seek and receive the help that I was seeking. If you're seeking the help, you can get the help here at Austin Street.
Welcome to a special season of the More Than Sunday podcast as we're collaborating with Austin Street Center as we share stories of those who are experiencing homelessness and ways that we can work together to help them home. I'm Rohini Drake.
And my name's Daniel Roby. I'm the CEO of Austin Street Center, where our focus is to provide safe shelter and housing-focused solutions for each and every one of our homeless neighbors. And we're excited to be able to host here at Austin Street Center. So you'll see and hear a lot of the sights and sounds that we experience every day. But most importantly, to me, is to introduce to you someone who's become a friend, Anthony Proctor, and Anthony's going to share a little bit about his story, and we'll get to know him a little bit better. So, Anthony, thank you for joining us today.
Yes, thank you. Glad to be here.
So, Anthony, would you just begin with sharing with us a little bit of your personal journey? What has been your interaction with Austin Street over the years, what are you doing now in your service? Okay.
Well, I came to Austin Street by a long struggle with drugs and alcohol and in and out of being incarcerated. And so this last stint when I was incarcerated, my mom done had it. She done, this is it.
Yeah.
It was the last straw with her.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, I need to figure out where to go. So this was in 2016. So in 2016, when I got out of prison, I started hanging out with friends, and my friends just were old friends, and those old friends, I found myself still addicted to drugs, and somewhat worse. I'm out doing things that I shouldn't have been doing, that I know better, and I found myself locked up yet again. And it was this last time I talked to my mom. My mom said, well, I'll put you in the hands of the Lord.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I heard about Austin Street when I was on the streets. Yeah. And I began to research. And I had to make a conscious decision to myself. Well, I'm going to go to Austin Street when I get out, because I was facing 25 to life. And I prayed to God, and I had to come face to myself, be true to myself and to God. And a week later, I was released.
Wow.
I was released. And I knew that was the hand of God. And I told my mom, I said, Mom, I'm out. Can you pick me up? She said, you can't come here.
Wow.
I said, no, I'm going to go to Austin Street. And I promise I'm going to get it right this time. So I came to Austin Street. And one thing that I had to work on in Austin Street was patience. And so I worked on my patience. And I utilized every resource that Austin Street had for me. I lost a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Austin, being here in Austin Street, I picked up that weight and popped it. I picked it all back up about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, about 30 pounds.
Yeah.
So, and I was a regular attendant of the chapel.
Yeah.
I love the chapel because I feel like God's spirit would just hover on me, giving me the peace and everything. And so I restored myself through Austin Street. I utilized everything Austin Street had to offer. And those one of the big things that I try to, teach when I come back to volunteer, So I used everything Austin Street had to offer. And I even met a wife here, my wife here. And we're doing great now. And so what I do today, I come back on Thursday to give back what I've learned and how I have grown spiritually and how Austin Street is able to help you. If you're seeking the help, you can get the help here at Austin Street.
Thank you so much for sharing your story of how Austin Street has impacted you. And so as you're sharing and I'm listening to this story, I'm wondering how has your experience here influenced you to not only serve, but as you interact with the clients that are here now, how has your experience shaped kind of what you do and how you do it and how you interact?
My experience is because whenever I ride around town, I see me. I was in those shoes. So it's the hope and coming to truth who you are. I mean, you need to know who you are. And if who you are doesn't align with what you're doing on a daily basis, then there's something out of line. So I try to give the residents here, whenever I come on Thursdays, I try to give them hope, because I try to give them hope and I let them know that there's teachers and firefighters, there's people maybe 15 minutes away from being homeless. Rich people, poor, I mean, because it happens. Trauma, mediocre mindset, can get you homeless. And so I try to instill that confidence, that faith in who you are, that you're a person, and everyone needs shelter. Shelter is one of the basic needs of life. And I try to instill that. And I try to instill, renewing of the mind. It's who you think you are. As a man thinketh, so is he, So I try to change that perspective whenever I come out to the residents.
That's so powerful. And, I'm sitting here listening to you and hearing about, you talked about your mom a little bit and how she supported you. You talked about Austin Street. But tell us about this support system. And maybe it's more on Mom and Austin Street, but maybe other people too that just kind of were support and a help through the journey, and kind of, how they helped and supported you in that transition. Because how much time was it from when you were at Austin Street? Do you remember how long you were there?
Yes, I was here approximately about 120 days.
Okay. And
4 months.
Yeah. So talked about the different people that maybe helped you, before you came to Austin Street, at Austin Street, and maybe after as well. Like, what has your support system been like, in that period of time?
My support system was my mom, because and my sister. Mm-hmm. I have a younger sister, and I came from a wonderful family, but life decisions just took me down the path, and I had that support system, and they always were my backbone. They were always willing to give me a helping hand, but I didn't have that shelter though, and so being here, I still had them, but being here, just talking with the counselors, listening, and then putting in my own time reading and going to chapel service. It was a lot of work, and that support system really came from God, because I knew I had to get away from people.
Yep.
And build myself back up in Him. I had to, transform. I had to just allow Him to transform. Because even though I wasn't, being here, I had shelter now. Mm-hmm. Even though I had a choice to be back out on the streets, I had to make a conscious choice to stay in the shelter.
Yeah.
And to seek and receive the help that I was seeking.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you want the help.
Yeah.
But you don't want to go through take the necessary steps to receive the help.
Yeah. And
so I had to receive it with patience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and staying at Austin Street is hard, right?
Yes,
you think about it, and it sounds like you were sharing how you went to your mom and she said, "Hey, not a place for you to stay." And so she was a support system, but she also had some tough love too.
Uh-huh.
And then when you came to Austin Street, that meant you had to be here by a certain time and all those things. Mm-hmm. And I know that makes it challenging for some people, right?
Uh-huh.
But you decided, hey, I'm going to submit myself. I'm going to try to be more patient through this process. Mm-hmm. And in that patience, it sounds like you kind of found your way. Is that fair?
Yes.
Yeah.
In that patience.
Awesome.
Yes.
And Anthony, as you're sharing all these stories, in this podcast season, we're going to talk to somebody in a future episode about myths of homelessness. And so I'm wondering, since you've been a client here at Austin Street, and now you come back to volunteer and support people here, what are some things that you've come across that are myths, or maybe prior to becoming a client at Austin Street you thought were true, but then you found out were not true about homelessness?
Well, one of the things that I thought about homelessness, I thought people would say, if you're homeless, you're crazy.
Yeah.
You're homeless, you're crazy. But then I realized that there's all facets of people out on the streets.
Yep.
Yeah. I think when I was here, I had met a guy. He was a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And bad luck, his house had burned down, and his most of his business was in the house, everything. And when everything came crash and burnt up, he couldn't get it back going. And and hope deferred makes the heart sick, and it's very hard to bring that hope back. Yeah, and so I realized that you don't have to be on drugs, and you're not everyone is mentally ill, and that was very illuminating to me. Yeah.
And I couldn't agree with you more. I think that the assumption, right, that everyone is struggling with an addiction or everyone struggles with a mental health issue, that's certainly something that I've experienced as well from my time at Austin Street. Mm-hmm. Maybe if you wouldn't mind, I'd like you to reflect on this most recent experience. How long have you been volunteering at Austin Street?
I've been volunteering now for about 7 months.
7 months.
Yes.
And in these 7 months, has there been any particular experience in volunteering that were meaningful to you, that you felt like, hey, I've been able to do something meaningful, something that makes a difference in somebody else's life? And what was that moment like for you?
Well, I had moments where I had a few friends that I went to high school with. And I thought these friends were doing good, And next thing I know, they're sitting in chapel service. And he was kind of hid his face. I said, Cedric. He like, yeah, it's me. What happened? And so those things were touching. And it really lit the fire. Hey, it can happen. And so those things, and there's a lot of people with misfortune and a lot of misfortune. And then there's those that, that don't want to help. They just want the handout. They just want the handout. And I try to say, you're gonna have to change your thinking. You're gonna have to change your thinking, because you know what I'm saying. Because if I gave you $5, how long you think it's gonna last? If I gave you, and those things has been touching whenever I see friends that I went to school with come through the chapel, those are like really hard to bear, but it's also, it's grateful to be put in. God has built me up and put me in a position to be able to sympathize with others. Yes, he's really given me a heart to sympathize with others and to meet people where they are. Yeah.
I'm so glad that you shared that story about your friend that you went to school with, because, I remember when I was walking through the shelter and saw somebody with the T-shirt of the school, the high school I went to, which is here in Dallas. And, kind of stops because it just kind of hit home for a minute. And other times when I've met people who have come here for help that, that were in my elementary school class, that I knew through junior high and high school. And, you always think it's somebody different, but the truth is that homelessness could really touch anybody. And
yes.
I'm so grateful to you to be willing to share your story with us.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Daniel, and you as well, Anthony, that people who experience homelessness, they can be anybody. They're not outside of our social circles. They're not outside of our own friendships. And so for those that might be listening and wanting to help, what do you, in your opinion, in your experience, what were some of the most helpful things for you that somebody could do? Is it volunteering here at Austin Street? Is it, donating money, items? What was most helpful?
I think the most help a person can give is, the donating is great. It's great. But a listening ear,
yes,
is even greater.
Yeah, amen.
A listening ear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm grateful you said that, because when people ask me a lot of times, what do you do when you see somebody on the side of the road? And it's always challenging. I tell people, people could give money if they chose to do that. They could give items if they maybe had a bag of things that they kept in their car. But usually the advice I usually try to give people is, well, at least make eye contact with somebody and say hello. And sometimes people are like, well, but I don't know, and I'm afraid. And I get it. Everyone's got to keep safety in mind. But the amount of time you can invest in somebody, right? I was like, if you can, take somebody out to lunch and share your story and listen to theirs. And in that process, both people end up becoming better as a result of it. And so anyway, I'm so grateful you said that. I couldn't agree with you more. Taking time to listen, treating a person like a person, that's what really makes the difference.
Yes.
Well, Anthony, thank you so much for joining us, for sharing your time, sharing your story and your experience with us. I know that a lot of people listening were inspired, and I know I personally am encouraged just to hear your story and just the light that you have and the energy that you have for wanting to give back and continue to connect with the people here at Austin Street, which has been a help to you in your life story.
Yes.
So thank you so much. Thank you for listening to this episode. And for any resources that we mentioned here or ways that you can get more connected and plugged in to either donate or volunteering your time here at Austin Street, you can visit our website at FUMCR.com/morethansunday. We'll be happy to help connect you with Austin Street and the amazing work and the mission that they have here. Thanks again for listening. I hope you have a great week.